Down the right field line, pretty well hit. LaVarn way is the right way here tonight.
Yogi Berra said it's 90% mental, the other half is physical. My name is Ryan LaVarnway, Major League catcher and minor league grinder, and I've spent the last 15 years playing professional baseball while evolving my mindset. I'm fascinated by optimizing that 90%. In this show, I'll talk to elite athletes and mindset coaches about what makes them tick and how they've overcome obstacles in their own careers on the way to finding success. This is Finding the Way.
Hey everyone, this is Ryan LaVarnway and welcome to Finding the Way. Today I have the privilege of having my friend on the podcast, Kathleen Quinn Votaw. Not only is she a good friend of mine, but she is a two-time author, speaker, and award-winning CEO of a company called Talent Trust. And today we're going to dive into the athlete mindset, perhaps, but in the corporate setting, because Kathleen is not an athlete, but she is 100% a competitor, two-time cancer survivor, two-time Inc. 5000 award winner, Vistage Speaker of the Year. I could list your accomplishments all day long, but then the podcast would be over. So let's hear from you, Kathleen. Thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, Ryan, I've been looking forward to this. You know, you are such an amazingly accomplished athlete, but also a human. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today about finding the way, because you're leading the way. I'm just a little passenger on your little bus.
I might be leading something in the way, but you are leading companies, you are leading your company, and you are helping other companies find the way to recruit and keep the best talent. So your two books are called Dare to Care in the Workplace and Solving the People Puzzle. What made you so passionate about people, and especially people in this way in the workplace, where oftentimes cultures at companies have not been that way?
Such a great question. Well, Solve the People Puzzle was my first book. It came out in 2016. And I was an accidental author, quite frankly, Ryan. I didn't wake up one morning and go, oh, I'm going to write a book. But you know what? All the work I had done up until that time, I had friends and customers and speaker friends, Jack Daly in particular, who's an incredible competitor. He said, Kath, you got to write a book. I said, Jack, I don't want to write a book. He said, Kath, write a book. He waited until his 60s to write his first book. And he is a great sales guy. And he also has competed in Ironmans all over the world, very accomplished. So we're having dinner and I said, okay, stop bugging me. I'll write a book. So I tested the waters with a company called Advantage Media. They're my first publisher. And we did an outline. And lo and behold, I had a little book in me. And we did the outline that we did originally is what I stayed true to. And it's like, you know, listen to your people. They have the formula you need to succeed in business. Make sure you create an environment that people want to work in. I really feel some of these concepts are very basic, but something weird happens when we cross the threshold from, home to work. We get a little less human. We get less connected with the human being, and we get less direct. We kind of walk around these subjects that are really important to talk about. I want you to do your job. I want you to be happy. I want our customers to be happy, and we need to make money while we're doing it. When did we get so indirect? So my book hits at the heart of how high growth companies can select and retain people for their future. That's my first book. The second book was, can't we all just get along? Dare to Care in the Workplace is really about, could we have compassion for one another? And the employee has a role and the employer has a role. So that's why I did all this.
That's more than a little book, I have to say.
My second book is it's a baby. It's called a hook book. Have you ever heard that phrase? A hook book is something, it's like one subject, you go really concisely into it. There's 4 little chapters. It's like a workbook, the Dare to Care in the Workplace book. Get along, your role, my role, have empathy, build community, basically give a shit about each other, and where we are in our lives, take a moment like where you hire a whole person who has maybe a family, maybe a significant other, maybe a mom, maybe a dad, maybe a dog, maybe a goldfish. What do they need from you as a human to live the life they want to lead? Because I'll tell you right now, people want to live a good life and they know what it is. They want to put it together and they don't work for you if you're an employer. They work for their families first, and then faith, if they have faith, their God, and then you. So in most cases, you're number two if you're a hiring person. And in some cases, you're even number three if there's faith involved, right?
So that's such an important point that I think gets overlooked is you are hiring a complete person. And I love the way you said that somehow when you cross the threshold from home to work, people get less connected to the fact that they are people. This is something that I
Mhm.
noticed in the sports world. It's something that I noticed when I worked in the mortgage office for those 2 winters that I worked in mortgages. It's when you're on the field as a baseball player, you feel like I have hopes, I have dreams, I have fears, I get nervous, I go through slumps. But the way that they evaluate players is you're a number, you're a piece on the chessboard per se. That's the
Mhm.
business of
Mhm.
baseball, and it's so much different than when you played in youth league, in high school, in college, where everybody is a person. You're all a part of a team, and that's to me that was the coldness of professional sports that had the potential to turn me off and at a certain point in the middle of my career actually made me fall out of love with baseball. And I was in an
Mm.
industry where it's a dream job for most people, and I fell out of love with it while I was in it. So I could so easily
Mm.
see that when that happens in other workplaces, people fall out of love with their jobs and fall out of love with their boss and end up leaving the company. So even though
Mhm.
it seems like such a basic concept, listen to your people, they have the formula that you need to succeed. How do you take that and give employers tangible steps, tangible work items or workshops? What are you teaching people on how to improve this and to build humanity back into the workplace?
Absolutely. Great question. There's two really key things I'd like people to consider. First, have the chutzpah to have a fierce conversation with those people who work with you. Here's two questions you can ask anybody, whether you're in sports or you're in corporations. Why do you choose to work for me? And under what circumstances would you leave? So, first question, why do you choose to work for me? And under what circumstances would you leave? There's a lot of choice right now for talented people. Lots of choice. There's 9 million open jobs and only 6.3 million job seekers. So, who do you think's in the driver's seat? So,
Wow.
that's number one. Why do you keep choosing me? And under what circumstances would you leave? So I believe to my core that business owners, business leaders, anybody who hires, they need to keep the best available employee in the seat at all times. So by having these discussions, you can ferret out, hey, you in or you out? Like in your profession, you are in or out, and somebody else might have made the decision for you. But in corporations, we've got to know the mindset of the person because guess what? The employee serves your customer. And if you're constantly surprised at who's coming in and out of your corporation, you're not prepared for the next week, the next month. You've got to know who's coming in and out, who's tied to your organization. And guess what? Sometimes people, as you said, fall out of love with the mission, the why, the job they're doing, the person they're working with. It's your job to keep your finger on the pulse of those people. Second, use some good tools. There's two tools I really like out there. So you have to give people the opportunity to talk to you and listen to them. Some of them might be introverts and they might not be able to tell you to their face exactly what they need. So give them a way to respond to you via a tool like eNet Promoter Score. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Ryan. eNet Promoter Score.
Yes, of course.
It stands for an employee net promoter score. It became really sexy and popular with corporations, Net Promoter Score. But now we're turning the lens internally into corporations. Me as an employee, how do I score you and my experience with you? It's free. Well, it's not free. It's really inexpensive on SurveyMonkey. You can do it all by yourself. Even if you're in a department, you can do it. And the question is, how likely are you to refer our company to a friend or colleague to work for on a scale of 0 to 10? It's really cool to use internally. Most corporations use it externally with their customers. I really believe your employees are your internal customers. And then last, there's another great tool called the Gallup Q12. The Q12 questions from Gallup are the 12 questions that Gallup, pretty big organization, lots of good reputation, they suggest that you should know about every single person who works with you, for you in your organization. It's a really cool tool. And Gallup has consultants that can help you. So those are some really good tactical things that they can do.
I think it's so I've definitely heard of the Net Promoter Score because when I'm coaching leadership through Spark Brilliance, that's one of the tools that we use to see if our program is as successful as we
Yeah.
claim that it is. And the results have been amazing. But you do it before, you do it in the middle, and you do it after to see how not only are the leaders responding to the company's investment in their leadership training, but also the team that's underneath the leader. How is the leader doing as a leader?
Mhm.
My question, and just to play devil's advocate, because this is how my brain works, the right away when you say, ask someone why you would leave, why would you leave me? Why would you leave this job and not choose to work here anymore? My first thought is, as a baseball player, we're not all superstitious, but we're all at least a little stitious. What would you say? What would you say to the counter argument of you might have just put it in somebody's head that they could leave you, and maybe they hadn't thought of that before. Maybe they didn't
Mhm.
realize that there was more open jobs than there are people to fill them, and that they're more in the driver's seat. What would you say to the people that say, well, you shouldn't give them the idea that they should leave?
Well, you're not necessarily giving them the idea that they should leave. What you're doing is helping yourself understand the environment you can create that will help them choose you again and again. Every day is a choice. Look at the relationships you have outside of the workplace, outside of athletics, outside of baseball, outside of football. We have choice in our personal relationships, don't I? Don't you? Don't we all? Right? So every day is a choice of how we're going to show up and who we're going to show up with. So I get that question a lot. Holy crap, you want me to open that can of Pandora? I don't want to do that. And most people, they're scared of it. But when you're scared of something, it's probably something you should do, maybe, or consider because it's in their head anyhow. If anybody reads the news or watches the news, they know they have choice. Anybody on your team, I hate to tell you, they're probably already open to or either actively looking for a job. Statistically, 75 to 80% of the people who work with any corporation, and I don't care if it's the Red Sox, I don't care if it's the Broncos or the Chiefs, guess what they've employees to? They are 75% are open to or actively engaged in looking at another job. And it's not malicious or mean or evil. It happens really easily. It could be, hey, I met you at the baseball field. I met you at the hockey rink. I met you at the bar. I met you at the club. I met you at, what is that called? Paddleball? That's how much of not an athlete I am.
Pickleball.
Paddleball thing.
Pickleball.
Met you pickleball, tennis. I met you at the gym, and hey, how you doing? How's your work life? What's going on? I had a really tough week, my boss is just coming down on me, or I didn't hit my numbers. I have a crabby client, a crabby colleague, a crabby boss. I have to travel too much. Doesn't fit my life anymore. And then you know what? You're sitting next to a guy or gal who is really happy in their world. They say, well, why don't you come talk to us? We've got a great community. We got a great company. We've got great clients. We're looking for talent all the time. And so at the gym, somebody creates an opportunity. And you know what the employee says? What do I got to lose? I'm not happy where I am. So it's not recruiters calling all the time. It really is the opportunities that create themselves just out there in the open. And that's what you have to be worried about because opportunity knocks and everybody's looking.
Yeah, no, so I agree with you that it's better to know even if the answer isn't what you like because the information is power, right? If you get an answer
Absolutely.
you don't like, at least you then have the opportunity to solve the problem. And hopefully the
Yeah,
information gives you the exact hurdle that you need to overcome instead of
mhm.
it living in your blind spot. Um, and that's
Totally agree. In the absence of information, people make up their own stories. Both ways.
true. I also think it's human nature to, especially in our modern world where everybody shares way too much of their personal life, especially the best parts of their personal life on social media in every aspect.
Mhm.
I know that while my wife and I bought a new house about a year and a half ago, while we were in escrow, committed to purchase this house, she was already looking at Zillow for the next upgrade. We hadn't even moved in, right? So I think it's human nature, right? Like you got a TV, you go to Costco, you see the huge TVs right when you walk in the door, you're like, "Oh, maybe I needed a bigger TV." So the more open and available you are as these opportunities present themselves in your life, because you're right, they do just show up. So whether you're a green light, a yellow light, or a red light to being receptive to those opportunities as they present themselves, your employee your employer taking care of their house and making you happy at work is going to affect how you view those new opportunities.
Absolutely 100%. And knowing who is in or out can help you put the best team together to serve your customers. Because when the employees are happy, who else is, right?
Your
The
customers.
customers, the you are. You as the manager are happier too, because shiny happy people are funner to be around than crabby people.
And something that it says on your website, happy people deliver healthy profits.
Yes,
I checked your
exactly.
website before this
Companies,
call.
thank you, dear. Companies who have who focus just even a little bit on creating a community where people give a shit about each other and pull together for a common goal, they make more money.
It's true. One of the other
Mhm.
things I saw on your website that I'd love for you to dive into a little bit because this is one of your big messages that you teach in workshops and speeches all across the country is you talk about building your Camelot at work. What
Yes.
does that mean to you and how do we do it? Because Camelot sounds amazing.
Camelot is amazing. And for the listeners who might be older, it's about King Arthur and Guinevere and those who still might be older. It's about Kennedy, the Kennedy family. They're really these Camelot moments, right? If you think of your career, Ryan, in sports and how much you've done and how much you've succeeded, there's probably moments like when you were on the Olympic team for Israel, when you won the World Series with the Red Sox. Those are Camelot moments that if you could put them all together, that would be just like amazing, right? In business, we also have Camelot moments when we have wins together, when we sign that new customer, when we get a new office, when we hit certain thresholds, when we get certain awards like Inc. 5000 or Forbes Best of anything. When there's moments where we're working together so well and we're unstoppable. We're unstoppable. You can't be there all the time. Like a baseball team doesn't win all the time, right?
Right. I mean, if
A
you could,
football team,
it'd be amazing.
if you could, it'd be great. But has it ever happened?
It's never, football had happened once or twice.
Yes, but it really rarely happens,
Yeah.
right? So, we have to look at the wins and the losses, but the wins are the Camelot moment and focusing on the wins. human nature tends to focus on the loss, what you didn't do well in that game, how um, how you failed in that presentation, how you let your colleagues down. We have a weird um, habit as humans to focus on the bottom 20% versus the top 20%, even on ourselves, even to ourselves, even about ourselves. And so if we've spent more time, debriefing on the Camelot, why did we win? What did we do? What was the design of our team? Who was on it? Like, that was awesome. Let's do that again versus staying in the you suck. Let's decode what sucked. I mean, really, SEAL teams do this really well. After every, um, I guess, whatever assignment, what do they call them
Mission.
when they send out SEAL mission? Every mission, before they are done with the mission, they go into a closed room. Everybody, the really buff guys and gals who are out there shooting people or whatever they're doing, and then the team behind. There's always a smart team of engineers, in their ear talking to them. And I'm obviously a movie person, not a SEAL, but they debrief everything before they leave. The mission isn't done until they do the plus delta on absolutely everything. They are so disciplined about, understanding what was exceptional about that mission, what could we have done better, and then they really focus on what they did well and do it again and again and again and again. Not how much I sucked, and let's focus on improving you. Nobody can improve another human being. Only that can come from you. You can get coaching, you can have mentors, but I have to have the will to compete and win. I can't do it because you tell me to do it, Ryan. I have to take your coaching and internalize it so I win. You can't ever do that for me. You can't do that for another human. So that's what I mean by that. I went off on a little tangent in the SEAL. Sorry, Navy SEALs, if you're listening. I'm, I'm I admire you very much, but obviously I've never been on a mission.
Oh my God. So, I mean, don't apologize for expounding on the Camelot community or the Camelot moments, because I thought there was so many good nuggets in there that I want to dive into a little bit deeper. I love that you said that people tend to focus on the bottom 20% and not the top
Mhm,
20%. You're also forgetting that there's 60% in the middle where most of us live. Most of us and most of our
mhm.
moments are in the 60% of average, right? You
Yeah.
also use the analogy like a baseball team doesn't win every game. There's a famous quote that even the best team's going to lose 40 games, even the worst team's going to win 40 games. It's the same concept
Yeah.
of it's what you
Yeah.
do with the rest. Um,
Mhm.
and what I hear you
But
saying is,
on the if you focus on that 20% of good, like, wow, we were great, then your other 60% is going to be greater.
yeah, well, it's like I hear you saying that you lean into your strengths and you break down, well, what did we do right and how can we do more of that?
Mhm.
Right? But we're going to lean into
Exactly.
the composition of our team, the different specific roles that we gave people and what they were thinking about, how they interacted with customers, what skill sets, how did they prepare ahead of time. And when you use the
Mhm.
SEAL example, that debrief, I believe the way that they approach it, and I haven't been a SEAL either, but I believe the way they do it is they try to be as neutral and informative as possible without adding judgment to it. Right? Like
Correct. That's the
what
hardest
are the
thing.
facts? What are the facts and how could we use these facts to be better next time?
Absolutely, yes. And that non-judgment in my Dare to Care in the Workplace book, the hardest thing for us to be is not judging each other or comparing ourselves to one another. That comparison crisis is real, and it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. everybody sometimes people masquerade on social media as being all that in a bag of chips. Guess what? I'm going to blow that out for everybody listening. Nobody is all that in a bag of chips. Everybody has what I call an invisible disability,
Ooh.
something that hurts their heart. It's an actual organization, it's a nonprofit organization called Invisible Disabilities, but it's very descriptive. A lot of us are walking around wounded somehow, some way. And we don't talk about that stuff, but it makes us stronger that we've overcome that stuff. So I think not judging each other and going, "Oh, well, I don't know, whatever you say to yourself," because you don't know what happened to that person 5 minutes before you met them. You have no idea what happened to them in their life. So giving people grace is really an important piece to all of this. The comparison crisis is really a real thing out there, and not being judgy. I don't care what the size of your house is or my house. Who cares? You have a house. God bless. I'm glad you have a house and shelter and you can take care of your family. Why can't we come from that place?
Wow. I mean, coming from a place of love and compassion and empathy versus a place of comparison. Even even just calling it a place of comparison, it is a more loving and empathetic place than a place of judgment. God,
Mhm.
that hit me right there when you said invisible disability, because everybody's been through stuff, and you're bringing that baggage of whatever you've been through with you.
Mhm.
Man, I need to think about
All
that.
of us are. All of us are. I mean, like you speak to audiences now, and you're so inspiring. And I can't wait. I can't wait till next year when you're like all over the place. So excited for you and your life. Um, and we're all taking risks, right? Have you ever spoke before like this year? I mean, you went out there, you tried something new, and you happen to be really damn good at it. And so everybody should listen to you. Everybody should hire my friend Ryan. But I think, I can't compare myself to you and you can't compare yourself to me. But we're both out there creating a great life for our families and delivering really good messages that matter. Why can't we just stay there?
Yeah, man, that's true. But it's such a powerful thing, and it's still like it's swimming in my head right now. The ability to come from a place of compassion and not judgment because has something going on in their past that they're bringing with them.
Mhm.
I want to double click on one more thing that you said because I think it's so powerful. Is people need to want to improve on their own. You can't make them want to. And ultimately, they have to make the changes, do the work themselves because
Mhm.
you can't, I mean, you could coach them, you can encourage them, you can show them the way, but they need to do it themselves. This is something, again, I understand things by comparing them to my past. So when I'm coaching or when I've been coached, if I'm not ready to improve, a coach can't coach me
Mhm.
or I can't coach a kid, even if I know he's doing it wrong until he's ready or until he has failed and it gets there himself where he's ready to hear, I can't do anything for him. So if you're a leader, if you're in charge of a team and there's somebody that needs to improve but isn't ready to listen yet, what advice do you have for that leader? Is it just patience or what?
Patience and courage to have the fierce conversation with them that they're not ready mentally. I mean, everything we do, the work you've done and any of the athletes that are listening, a lot of it is mental. You you're overcoming physical pain and just some remarkable athletic capability, right? It's the same in business. Like we really have to have that courageous conversation that you're not ready because you're not ready to do the work to learn the skill. I'll give you an example in business. I had a woman working with me, and I'll say she's still working with me today, but she was failing in a particular role. in a particular role within the organization. And one day I said, what is going on with you? I mean, it can be that simple, people. If you see something, say something, like you hear it at the airport all the time. If you see something, say something. Same thing in your life, on the ball field, or in a corporation. What's going on with you? You're not hitting your marks. You're not doing this. You're not performing. Have some metrics. Is something wrong? Is something happening in your life I need to be aware of? And it came to light that something very difficult was happening in her life, which prohibited her from doing the job and performing well. Now, I had the benefit of being the CEO of a company and moving her into a different role. If you're a hiring manager, you may or may not have that. If you're on a coach on a team, they might just need to go or go down a division because they're not quite ready for prime time. See, the hardest part of leadership is seeing what our people are not quite achieving, bringing it to light, letting them understand it, and meeting them where they are. Because one player or one employee might be ready to make the changes necessary to achieve, and the other one, you have to let them go, because you're not going to hold on to people forever. We need to be more of a river in our businesses and flow, versus hanging on so tight and become like this gross pond that has scum over it. Be the river, not the pond. You got to let people move in and out, because, if you see, no matter, sometimes I've seen people get so much coaching. Even my son played hockey and he played baseball, and Ryan was his coach. That's how I met Ryan. Not everybody's going to be the best player. My son was a good player. He didn't want to do the work to be the great player. And he said that to me in his life now. He knows that now. And now he's putting 150% in to be the best at his current job. And he's proud that he made it to college athletics. Only 2% of all players ever do. And so he reframed it. What did I accomplish? Versus, oh my God, I didn't go pro, or I didn't do this, or didn't. You can stay down on yourself, but that's never going to get you up in your life. You've got to rise up. You got to keep moving forward. So that's kind of what I mean by that. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it goes back to then you debrief, right? Instead of leaning on the 20%, well, I didn't end up making it. Well, what was the 20% that I have to be proud of? How do I maximize that to leak into the middle 60%?
Right. Exactly.
I've never called you Kath before, but you called yourself Kath a couple times earlier in the show. So Kath, thank you so much.
That means we're even more. That means we're all more super special friends.
This has been incredible. I always ask every guest this last question before I let you go. If you could speak to a young version of yourself, or someone that has similar dreams, hopes to accomplish similar things that you've done in your life, what's the one thing that you've learned along the way, or what's the best advice you could give to that young person?
Believe in yourself, because you can achieve anything you put your mind to if you just try. Risk has great rewards, and just get out there and do it. Don't listen to all the people who will tell you why you can't do it. Just believe in yourself and do it.
Unbelievable. Risk has rewards. I'm pulling that out. Believe in yourself. KQV, thank you so much. For those of you listening, thank you so much for joining us. This has been Finding the Way. I am Ryan Lavarnway, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Finding the Way with Ryan Lavarnway. Find previous episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.